Hi, welcome to our volunteer training, voter registration training. Today, we are very excited to have Terry Burton from the Wood County Board of Elections here to go over their training for volunteers and for people who are trying to do voter registration here in Wood County. And so we're very fortunate to have Terry here to share his expertise on voter registration and what you need to know in order to do that. So I think Terry is going to share his presentation now, and he can take it away.
Thanks, Alyssa. As you said, my name is Terry Burton, and I'm the director here of the Wood County Board of Elections and a 1992 graduate of BGSU. I'm here today to review the process and the rules of registration. Our goal today is to make sure that you're comfortable with the process so we can ensure that individuals are getting properly registered and have a positive voting experience here in Wood County. The first thing we need to know is what qualifications you need to register to vote. And there are three main qualifications that impact most voters. That you're a citizen of the United States, that you'll be at least 18 years old on or before the day of the next general election, which in this case is going to be November 3rd. And that you'll be a resident of Ohio for at least 30 days immediately before the election that you want to vote in. Now, there are also three more qualifications, but these apply only to a very small number of individuals, and you're unlikely to encounter people that fall into these categories. But just so you're aware, you cannot be incarcerated for a felony conviction. Incarcerated means actually currently in a prison or jail. That you have not been declared incompetent for the purposes of voting, and that you have not been permanently disenfranchised because of violating an election law. Once again, these concepts typically are things that you will not run into. The next question for students is, where should I be registered to vote? In this case, the voter can choose. Some students like to vote from their home address. They're more likely to know their local candidates. They feel more comfortable voting on local issues, and they get to do things like vote for their home school. Other students want to get more involved here at BGSU and want to get engaged in the Bowling Green community. They also can opt to vote from their school address. In this case, some people find it easier to vote in person, or they just feel a bond of voting with their fellow students. Students may ask, can I use the form here to register for at home? If they live in Ohio, the answer is yes. The forms are universal statewide, and if you turn your form in here, we will forward it on to your home county for processing. If you're in another state, you'll need to find out what the voter registration process is for your home state, as voting laws vary greatly between states. You can find this information on your state on the vote.org website. Now that we know who can register to vote, let's take a look at the Ohio voter registration form. The top line is helpful but not required. This information assists our office in processing your form, but is certainly not essential. Questions 1 and 2 must be completed. These questions are to establish the voter qualifications that we reviewed earlier. Make sure that individuals understand that if they cannot answer yes to both these questions, they should not complete the form. Line 3 is the voter's legal name. This is typically the same way they have their name on their driver's license or state ID. We can take small variations, Robert to Bob or Dave from David, but generally you want it to be your official legal name. On line 4, for the street address, on-campus students may use either their street address or their dorm name. Off-campus students will always need a street address. It is essential that if they have a dorm or apartment number, that they include that information. It is important for us to be able to establish their voting precinct and that any mail sent by our office is received by them. Be sure if they're registering at their campus or Bowling Green address that they write Bowling Green. Many students list a Bowling Green street address and then list the name of their hometown by accident. As a reminder, students should always have a 43403 zip code if they're registering on campus and a 43402 if they're registering in Bowling Green off campus. On line 7, this is for additional mailing information. It is important because if mail is returned undeliverable from the voter, they're going to be required to vote provisionally at the polls. This takes the voter extra time, and it's just an inconvenience that we don't need to have happen. On line 8, the question here is what county, not country. Many students accidentally, and many other voters accidentally write United States in this blank. That is really not helpful. As a reminder, Bowling Green's county is Wood. Remember to check the year on their birth date when they're completing their birth date. Some voters accidentally put in the current year rather than the year they were born. This also requires then additional communication to the voter before their registration can be processed. When looking at line 10, they can provide either the last 4 digits of their Social Security number or their Ohio driver's license number. Remember that an Ohio driver's license number starts with 2 letters. And remember that it must be an Ohio driver's license. Out-of-state driver's license numbers do not qualify. On line 11, the phone number is voluntary. Having a phone number will expedite contact to the voter if there are any questions or problems regarding their registration. Line 12 is optional. It's for voters that maybe have had a previously registered address in Ohio. It is helpful, but it is not essential for us to get them canceled in their home county. On line 13, this information is only required if the individual has had a legal name change. And then as we complete the form on line 14 with a signature and a date, it is essential that the voters complete this sign and date process. Otherwise, the registration cannot be processed. Now let's look at a couple of other things to consider about registering voters. Is there a time limit for voter registration groups to submit the applications they collect? Ohio law mandates that anyone who registers another person for the purposes of voting and fails to return the registration form will be found guilty of a 5th-degree felony. So it's good practice for registrations to be turned in at least weekly, although the actual deadline is 10 days. Also, people cannot knowingly register people that are not qualified. It's important that they know in advance what the rules are and the qualifications are for voters as they complete the forms. In addition, these also could be punished by a 5th-degree felony. And then lastly, Ohio law says that no person should receive anything of value for registering a voter. Bottom line is that you shouldn't be doing any reward system for registering voters. While we all would like those rewards, it's important that just registering and being part of the democratic process is enough. As a final reminder, the deadline for registering to vote for this year's presidential general election is October 5th. Forms must be in our office by 9 p.m. that night. I'd just like to thank you for listening to our presentation on the voter registration process, and our office greatly appreciates your help in making our democracy work.